session of morning market preparation, right? So today we've got some really interesting things to be shared, and it's like a very nice thing that we did start with yesterday's episode, yesterday's video, and we did discuss some extremely interesting things. Let's see how some of these interesting things played out. And I also welcome I see a lot of people from the inner circle who are there, who were not there yesterday. So I welcome all of you. And yesterday, today we're going to follow a different kind of a structure, and this is going to be like every day. So we're going to see some of the world markets, how they've been doing, how Indian markets did yesterday broadly, and then specifically go into stocks, right? So first of all, keeping it very simple and broad-based, we knew that we were, according to our uh, way of looking at technical analysis, we knew the short-term trend was in play, right? So at any given point in time, hello, yeah. If there's any audio issue or anything, any given point of time, let me know. I think right now it is completely clear, right? So uh, we saw that a huge bearish engulfing pattern was formed on the daily chart, and we saw further downside. So this was pretty normal and clear. And what are the deeper facets of it that I discussed were that, on the hourly chart, we are going to draw this line as an important support zone or resistance zone, important interaction zone. This is there. I also noticed that this becomes an important point too. So I'm going to go for this one as well. So not to make the chart too dirty, but this is how it is. Also yesterday, the entire day we saw almost a sideways market. Now the market went down, and whenever it pulled back up, it could not sustain. We saw sideways market. So if I see the 15-minute or 30-minute or hourly chart, it is completely sideways with a slightly downward bias because it was making last two, candles was making lower lows, etc. The lowest point of the day was in the second last candle. Okay, so this is again resting upon a certain area around, you can say, the 12,150 160 zone, and probably the break of this area could lead to more fall, more downside. Now I'm not preempting anything, because what happens is that the volatility expansion. Okay, and after volatility expansion, there can come some sort of volatility contraction. So this sideways movement could become more sideways, more choppy, and we need to be careful about these things as intraday and even short-term positional traders. Okay, so this is one thing. Along with that, the world markets broadly. So I'll just pull out the chart of uh, other things over here. One second. Yeah. So I've got a couple of things now. So okay, let's start with the Dow futures chart, and also I'm taking the futures chart so I can know what is happening 24/7. And Dow futures, if I take up the hourly chart, I see that there is a mildly downward bias, but it's not really either a very big down move or a big up move. Now, one of the things, guys, is that whenever you see news or whenever you see places where important facts are written, then we need to be careful about those, because those uh, apps or those news-based endeavors are designed in such a way that nobody wants to miss out on anything. And it's just like the fear of missing out in trading. So whenever you see a big cut, then everywhere it is given, that market is going down, market is going down. And when you see a big up move, then everywhere it is given the market is pulling back, pulling back. So I see that there's more or less an equilibrium sort of a scenario over here. And if I take the not the futures chart, the spot chart also, it's going to be somewhat looking like to be very similar. Okay, so although after the market closed, according to spot, the US markets went up and then went down, but then again, mild interaction, mild movement, nothing very major. Okay, And then I look at some correlations, just looking at some other asset classes. Maybe I get a feel, get an insight from something, because I know that there are certain correlations which broadly exist, which decouple and things like that sometimes, but they don't always have to go in hand. Okay, but there are certain broad correlations. So I put the daily chart of gold in front of me, nothing much in terms of yesterday to today, in terms of movement. I take Euro USD, which is the highest volume traded asset class in the world. So I see there's a bearish undertone to this when I look at the downtrend. So if Euro USD is going on, then it's practically a little more bullish for the USD. So if I take the USD pairs like a USD Canadian dollar, I see that there's some mild bullishness in that. So I get a faint correlation that probably a USD INR could also turn out to be slightly bullish. Now USD INR, if I pull up the chart, you see it's a very strong range on the daily chart, as well as on the hourly chart. There has been nothing much except for coming up slightly from the recent lows. Okay, so not very high volatility. Now, if I open the chart, let me get a faint clue that at 7:51 a.m. in the morning right now, what is happening over there. And again, it's practically sideways within the range of wherever it was yesterday. Now, how by the time in the morning comes, in the spot Nifty opens and everything, uh, anything can happen over here. This tends to be volatile at this time of the day. So I'm not going to preempt anything, but this is what it is. And so wait and watch, right? Okay, now coming back to our homework for the preparation for the day. So we have a slight bearish undertone. The chances of bearishness to continue is slightly higher. That is what the factors have been telling us. And yesterday, there have been moves on the bearish end. Day before yesterday have been on the bearish end, and some of the moves which we deciphered. And I'll take the broad one first, which ones we deciphered, and that could even further continue. So one thing I said was let's take out the stocks which are coming out of a practical structure. Okay, so there was structure to this, and then just add Bollinger Band to the chart. Oh wait, let me just show you the support zone first. This we had drawn yesterday. Those who have missed out can see yesterday's video. Okay, and as I was saying that this area I've broken could lead to further more downside, right? So REC in that front was bearish, and if somebody traded it on the basis of how we discussed yesterday, it could have been quite interesting, right? From profitable from that perspective. So we have got a consolidation and price expanding from that. Along with that, there's a structure present. Now this could continue more downside in the coming today and coming few days. So because this is strong and this is right in front of us. Havels was one of the stocks we discussed yesterday, and again, I still stand by to my analysis over here in terms of that it could really lead to much more lower levels. Now, everything is probability based, and we try to understand where the probability is tipping on one direction. So yesterday we were talking about the fact that it's been the long-term wave counts, and these wave counts could be a ABC pattern or ABC if it's on the upside, and the overall trend could be downside. And over here, the cluster of candles was present from which the price started moving down, making new lows, new weekly lows, and yesterday it eventually made new 52-week lows, right? And we see that this could really go further ahead, and if we just feel like simple trend followers, right? And these supports have been broken completely and with high volumes. So this is again giving us a bearish undertone of things. And these two stocks majorly were bearish from where we started discussion. A part of it would also entail that I said spoke like there were stocks like Maruti. Okay, these are cyclical stocks. Now they had not shown anything bearish as yet, and they started to do so. So I took up my list of cyclical stocks, and I saw that yes, this did happen, and during the market hours also was seeing it. Also, stocks like Tata Motors, for example, similar thing. Uh, More bearish undertones seen, and they have caught up with the overall markets, and they have not moved as yet. But now, yesterday we saw that they have caught up. Okay, Hinomoto slightly flat. So one thing which comes on my radar as a first thing in my homework today was Bajaj Auto. Okay, Bajaj Auto has been in a phase of consolidation. In the weekly chart, it has shown us a short-term downtrend, a corrective mode. Okay, on the daily chart, it has been quite a one-sided trend, and there's been a pullback. Now, if I look at how the chart is placed in terms of totality, the long-term trend could still be up, but I'm going to be nimble over here and slowly and steadily wait for the hourly charts to show me something. So according to the hourly chart, I do see that this could be a lower high in an overall, range which is going on. Now, how would this distribution end? First of all, I see a distribution pattern over here that could happen and break, and this distribution needs to be formalized by marking the territory of the range. And one of the important levels which I noticed comes again is this 3080 3085 zone. Okay, so a fall below this in the right manner. Now, the fall should have its own nature of movement. It cannot be just a limpy movement. It should be something strong, right? And this could lead to more downside. I feel if I look at the chart of Bajaj Auto, okay, this could lead to more downside. So Bajaj Auto on my radar, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make notes on what are the stocks which are on my radar, right? So I'll just open an Excel sheet, Bajaj Auto, and what was the zone I was looking at? Around 3080, right? So I'm going to make my note. Yesterday was a very broad-based discussion on certain stocks which were doing very well in the long term, like Bharti Airtel. I said, these are things which are going well and doing well in the very, very long term. So worth keeping on radar. But also said that because the extension is so much and the prices have expanded so much, probably fresh intraday setups are not as ready yet. Okay. One of the stocks, other than the trending one, was Axis Bank. Again, coming out of a structure, but it was amongst the few banks which I had kept on my radar. If I look at Bank Nifty, because I forgot to discuss that, I look at Bank Nifty. Bank Nifty's come and halted near a very important support zone. It has made lower lows, and it could break out of this entire distribution, but I don't want to preempt anything. So this is one. And other than this, we've got Axis Bank amongst the banking sector, and PNB, which we discussed. Okay, so according to that, more or less we have seen PNB move and mentioned that this area of the lowest low of this wick, okay, amongst all these candles is going to be an important zone. So let's look at it. What has happened yesterday? The prices rested completely above this zone and completely worth keeping an eye on. So PNB below 61.3 zone is again something I'm looking forward to. So I'm going to keep this on my radar. One interesting thing which I saw on PNB was also according to RSI, and RSI thing is that in the moment when you see things are happening, you keep an eye and then you wait for more things to happen. So right now, I was noticing that well, the last distribution has been made. The upper end of the RSI area around the 60 zone has been established. So this shows us either a sideways market range or a bullish market range, or a bearish market range which could come about. So I'm vehemently waiting for PNB to show me things on not just today but over the next few days. Okay. iBull's housing finance, we had taken up, and I said that we've broken the support, but we mentioned this level. We mentioned this level. Price has taken support, and all the housing finance sector has really come up yesterday. Okay, even LIC housing finance, etc. So there have been very interesting things happening over there, right? Okay. Um, 1 minute, please. Okay. All right. Thank you. Fine. I'll check that up. Okay. One interesting thing I see is again the steel sector, my which I generally prefer to trade stocks like Tata Steel, JSW, one second, Hindalco and Tata Steel. The stocks which I personally like to trade and look at, both of them, Tata Steel, after a long time, I did see that according to even Bollinger Bands, I did see that it has come and crossed the middle band zone, whereas a lot of candles have been on the near the upper band zone. Okay, and I feel that this could lead to further more downside. So I would like to follow the short-term downtrend on Tata Steel, right? I would like to follow the short-term downtrend on Tata Steel. Okay, RBL Bank, is that what you mentioned? Yeah, RBL Bank, pretty much one of the stocks along with Kotak Bank which participated for yesterday. But as we see, it has not really gone further down. It has pulled back from a recent support zone. So worth keeping an eye out, but nothing more significant at the moment. Follow-throughs, which could have come yesterday, they did not come. So if you see a stock in the first hour is pulling back up such strongly, okay, then you want to be careful about trading it. And now over here up till the 347 zone, I would still be looking at more bearishness. So calmly wait and see how things unfold. Okay. Similarly for Kotak Bank, and like I said, whenever the extreme moves have happened, even in TCS, you don't want to go short on it when extremeness has happened. Only where the fresh structure is coming, then you look for it. And if the structure is still very ripe, then you probably could go and look for a follow through in the next day. Okay. TCS again becomes very interesting because it is around this support zone, and although not a very well defined pattern has come up, but if I zoom in at the last 2 days of price movement, I do notice that around this area 2184, I'm pulling up a smaller time frame here. Okay, 2184, 2190, 2180, around this zone there could be the resistance could be present, and let's wait and see if the price really goes on the upper end of this price range. Now price ranges can be tough to decipher in terms of when they are under formation. It can be tough to trade, but this one I feel we are on the lower end of the price range, and we need to wait and watch before committing to anything. On the other hand, if we go further down, that is also possible. We know that these support areas are where the market is resting. So wait and watch would be my TCS. Looking at TCS this way. So TCS would be to wait and watch. Okay. I have got a few messages coming. Okay. I'm not reading aloud each and every message. The one which is pertinent to the discussion right now, I'm taking this up because we have a lot of stocks, etc. to discuss. Okay, and in between, just one second. Uh, yeah. In between, let me just go and check up what is going on with the SGX because as I'm speaking, if there's something significant happening, then will be coming on our radar. Right. Well, nothing much. SGX has been like that in the last 15 minutes. Pretty much flattish to slightly bullish. Nothing much happening on SGX. Okay. So coming back again, Hindalco. Hindalco again is something which is on my radar. So one of the key things which I notice here, and if some of you remember who have done the course with me, I have spoken about Bollinger Bands, and Bollinger Band consolidation near the middle band is something which is strong, something which is worthwhile looking at. So during the middle band, I see a consolidation, right? And when I see this consolidation and the price breaking out from it, this is something significant. So I'm expecting that there could be some follow throughs over here. Now, if I go back and I look, this is a gap zone of a breakout gap. And price have been, you know, prices have been bullish wherever the breakout gap zones are revisited. So once it was revisited over here and prices stopped going further down, it pulled back and now it's giving me a more of a bearish undertone from the recent structure. But the positioning we need to be careful about. So if I pull up the hourly chart, etc., and only if I start crossing below these levels, then it might lead to significant downsides. So cross below 202 to 204 range. I have to be careful about that. And other than that, yes, this is one thing I'd like to keep on my radar, and I would like to say that I would wait and watch for some bearish potential movements, but it would still be a wait and watch, right? So this is Hindalco and okay. This is for pullbacks and this is for breaking down. Okay. Now, since we have discussed so many stocks which are bearish in nature, I always believe that you need to have two perspectives, sometimes an alternative perspective that if the market does something else, because see, it's not in our hands and we are looking at the broader perspective, right? There is nobody to say that the market cannot pull back all the way and then later fall down. Market can do anything that it wants to. So having a dual perspective sometimes can be helpful. Now, if the market opens today morning at 9:15, say for example, it starts going up like it did when it went starts going up, and this supposedly is a correction. That's like a extreme case scenario, I'm saying. Looking at the breadth, it doesn't seem so much like that. But suppose it were to do that, or suppose it were to go slightly down or just move sideways and make further base formations. So there is one stock which I feel could be more on the bullish radar, which I have. So that if that ends up happening, and maybe I see some important structure over there, is Oro Pharma. Oro Pharma is again one stock I've been tracking, and after a middle band consolidation, up move happened which closed above this upper band, and I was in this up move in terms of the fact that I deciphered this up move from here, and this looks like a symmetrical triangle or a continuation pattern also, right? It's not really symmetrical triangle, it's like a ascending triangle, but it is like a continuation pattern of this from here, and then we went further up. So as we went further up and as I see Oro Pharma behaving, if you notice there was an important resistance zone which was taken out. And yesterday one interesting thing happened was that it was a throwback on that resistance zone. So it has broken the resistance, and yesterday's candle is thrown back on that resistance zone. So After the throwback starts making higher highs, so this is under my bullish radar, that is Oro Pharma. I mean, of course, there are these stocks like Jubilant Food or Bharti Airtel, IGL, which are there on the bullish radar because of the long-term trends. But this is more of the short-term play which I'm looking at, short-term fresh entry kind of thing. Oro Pharma, I look at new short-term highs, and this is, of course, more bullish nature, right? Then I've got LNT, which was on my radar. Okay, somebody mentioned the IT sector. Honestly, I'm not looking at it so much because I feel that there are mixed views. So we'll check that out. LNT was something which is on the weekly chart has made a new low over here. Okay. Now, when something comes to its zone, it is not necessary that it has to break it completely, right? So it took a support, and now we see that after it has taken a support, it is forming a cluster of candles on the weekly chart. Given the fact on the daily chart, let's see the direction how it is unfolding on the daily chart. We have seen that the price has been for the last 2 days around the middle band area, and we are coming down from here. There could be some significance which could come. Right now, I think we should wait and watch. If there was more consolidation, that could happen. But I would have a medium term bearish bias on LNT unless we start showing something really bullish. There could be a bearish bias, and that bearishness could kick in if it were to, because we are seeing an undertone of the market which is so bearish, right? Undertone is so bearish. So LNT will be on my radar. As you notice, guys, one of the things is key over here. Yesterday we had many stocks on our radar, and it is because the market gave a fresh move and we were expecting follow throughs. So in some cases we did have follow throughs, some cases we did not have follow throughs. Okay, that is always a case. You cannot preempt all the time how much what is going to follow through. But one of the key things is that volatility expansion led to some volatility contraction. Market was completely sideways yesterday. Okay. Although some of the major stocks like Havels and REC and things we discussed did move according to what we analyzed, but Nifty has been showing a sideways movement. So in such a scenario, we have to be very careful about the fact that it takes price data formation. Okay, it takes some price data to happen in order to really show me new setups. So if that takes time, just because fresh moves and volatility has come, if that takes time to settle down, let it, right? Let it settle down. Okay, you don't need to be in a hurry that way, right? So, okay, when you guys are mentioning the name of the stocks, it would be helpful for not me alone, but for everybody to write a one or two line about what you think about the stock, so that there can be some nurturing over here, right? IOC, yes, yesterday we had taken this up as a small discussion about oil marketing space tends to be more correlated to commodity prices sometimes. Okay, M&M, you see a bearish engulfing in the resistance zone. Okay, so Maheshji, very good to see that you're utilizing everything that you learned in class with me. So, okay, but the thing is that you're talking about M&M or M&M Finance. This is not a bearish engulfing. Over here, I do see a evening star. Over here, I do see that a cluster of candles has prices come out of it, but not a bearish engulfing per se. Yes, M&M is something which was there on my radar too since yesterday morning. So one of the scanners which I have developed had this on the radar, I remember. So if I put Bollinger, or let me just look at it as like a completely naked chart. Okay, these areas where previously the price was forming a support zone. Okay, now this is acting like a resistance zone. So these areas are significant. The movement is there, and M&M, yes, we could keep it on our radar for any pullbacks as a bearish bias, right? So good one, Maheshji. This could be a stock which could be on our radar, right? And then obviously things like what have been already on the radar recently, like a Torrent Pharma, where there was some trend. Now we need to give these things a time to rest. Or Dr. Reddy, yesterday it did make a new high, and we need to give these time to rest. Even Ultratech Cement. So Ultratech Cement is something I'm extremely bullish on overall. But the short term you sometimes need to give these things time to rest, right? Right. So we're going to keep certain stocks on our radar, because one of the things is that if things are not ripe to move, then it's not advantageous for us. Sanjeev ji is saying Berger Paints Evening Star. Okay, so let's look at it. There is a sort of evening star formation. Yes, more downside could happen. Berger Paints, it broke a very steep sloping trend line possibly over here, and then we saw yesterday it moved. So fine, it's completely valid what you're saying, Sanjeev ji. Berger Paints, even Asian Paints, I think, showed us more downward momentum yesterday. And we had kept it as a long-term uptrend in radar. So they're showing us corrections. They're showing us some correctiveness. Now, this correctiveness could be deep corrections or it could be sideways correction. Generally, if we look at the broader trend and trade with the broader trend, this may not be valid, but if it happens to deepen the correction, then it may be completely valid to trade it and profitable to trade it, right? Reliance is something I wanted to take up because it was one of the major contributors from the outside, and let's see what happened yesterday. Again, complete sideways. So Reliance has been a strong weekly chart, okay, and it constitutes as a strong weightage in Nifty, along with things like Bajaj Finance and a lot of things which have gone up among the Nifty 50 stocks. So if something major happens, it can also influence how Nifty moves. So Reliance should always be on our radar, just for our knowledge, okay, that this is what exactly is the formation and this is what it is leading to. In those terms, it becomes very important, right? Lupin was one thing again, it kept on my radar. Lupin again, I said, it has shown us that it is coming out of a distribution, and I see that there are certain pullbacks. So let's see to what end this pullback and retrace. Okay, these areas, if somebody is a very broad-based positional traders, could be interesting in areas to look out for. Okay, and when I look at the intraday chart, I'm going to see how the live market formations are going to happen, and that's going to help me, right? So all in all, I've got interesting things and I'm really looking forward for the trading day today. 1 minute, please. Uh, yeah. So really looking forward for the trading day today. We still have got some time to go. There is some time to go still. And we've kept some stocks on our radar. We have zeroed in on certain things. And I'm going to flip through certain stuff. Also, say for example, PFC, REC, PFC, both are coming in the same category. The sectoral movement was strong, and PFC is breaking another support area. But since there is a structure present much earlier, I would really start looking at it as an extreme. So some downside, yes, could expect, but not, don't rely on it as a fresh entry. Keep your trailing stop losses, etc. And it did do the same thing as REC did. REC and PFC both went down yesterday. So it's kind of liking it that this is working out to be very highly correlated as it many times are, these two stocks, right? Things like Escorts, Balkrishna Industries, uh, SRF, a lot of these stocks are long-term uptrends. So those people who are tracking any of these stocks, okay, you need to be careful about, first of all, if there are impending sideways movement or correction that will happen, but you don't get many fresh entries, so you need to wait for them to consolidate a little bit and or give you a sort of correction in which you could see evidences of buying coming in, etc. That will be better. What is put call ratio? So put call ratio is the ratio of the volumes of puts traded divided by the volume of the calls traded. So if in case of put call, the essence of it is just as we learned when we did open interest, the essence is similar, that if there's a lot of volumes in puts, that means there's a lot of activity going on, and option buyers, who may generally be the weaker hands, are very active in buying puts. That means they're very actively looking at markets going down. So the put call ratio expands a lot because put is on the numerator, call is on the denominator. So if it is above one and goes really higher as it goes, the market time goes, then it indicates that people are overly bearish. Okay, so that is how put call ratio works, and vice versa. It is a contrarian indicator. It's a contrarian indicator that way, right? Okay. Any other questions? Anything you want to ask? Anything you want to discuss? Share. I didn't take up some of these things which some people have mentioned, but it's okay. In any other thing you want to ask conceptually? Okay. Thank you so much. So I think we'll call it a day. We have come towards understanding a lot of stocks and flipping around with different stocks. But just to get something is not important. To have some evidences coming towards you put together is important. Okay. Sometimes you'll have a lot of evidences, sometimes you will not. So keep that in mind. Wait and watch, then go ahead. One of the stocks again, which I want to talk about, it's like a fresh thing happening over here. Ashok Leyland. Ashok Leyland coming out of a range and even in the bearish market, not giving me enough. Ashok Leyland, I feel, could keeping from the long side perspective. So I make my notes on Ashok Leyland. As I said, we need to keep stocks of both categories, both long and short, so that depending on where the market flows, we can have this slight idea. Market has shown some slowdown yesterday from the downtrend, right? We cannot deny that. Ashok. So, Prashant ji, I would like you to also tell me what you think is happening in the stock when you mention the stock's name. Otherwise, then we're not going to learn so much from it. If you see something important, then go for it. Okay, so Glenmark you mentioned. What do you think is happening? It's a long-term downtrend, definitely. And Glenmark has not been. It's been a completely battered stock. And recently, yeah, we see a bearish engulfing pattern. It may follow through. So a break of the recent supports, but I would like some more market data to first start, and then definitely look forward to have some bearish bias on it. On the other hand, it could be sideways. It could remain sideways for a while. So I'm not going to look at it personally because something which has moved so much and starts resting a little bit, it eventually for its further down legs gives me enough clarity when the right setups are ready. So until those setups are ready, I'm not looking at it personally. Right. So we've got our watch list with us and we are ready for the day. I hope all of you had a lovely time with me in this session. And we are going to start at 9. It's 8:25 right now, right? So that's something very nice. And let's see, uh, what the SGX is doing. SGX has come up a little bit. So in SGX terms, we have crossed the range of yesterday. So this gives me that the undertone of the open of the Nifty could be slightly bullish. And I say undertone of the open of the Nifty, I completely mean what? That it is not necessary for all the stocks, number one. Number two is about the open. So let's see how the day unfolds, and even if it has to go up or anything, then also let's see keeping things on our radar, right? So if the same thing on the spot translates into just purely looking at from a Nifty perspective, same thing on the morning open. If anybody looking for morning trades and if SGX is showing us any kind of bullish bias, we need to let the market rest a little bit and have zones like 12,000, 210 and 20. Okay, this entire zone from 10,220, I suppose, till 12,200 is very important. So if the market starts crossing that, you want to scalp a few points, you want to have a bearish, have see the bullish undertone and really focus on it, then yeah, interesting things could happen. Right? All right, guys. So I will call it a day. And I've taken up most of the questions which come, or sometimes talks which are spoken about. Sometimes I don't take all because these kind of discussions and sessions in the morning are very brainstorming for me too. And I have prepared a lot in terms of what I've seen from the markets yesterday and how I'm communicating, how I'm going to see it in the next, next few minutes, next few hours. Okay, so again we see SGX is moving. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Narsingari. Thank you all. It was nice, and I'm really looking forward to the market day and get some feedback from you. Thank you. Like, share, and do also is going to be really helpful because sometimes the discussions of yesterday, according to some of the stocks, may follow through even today or tomorrow. Could at least give you a lot of learning, right? So thank you all. Thank you, Nitin. Thank you, Sanjeev ji, Mahesh ji. Take care, all of you. Have fun. Have a great day ahead. And goodbye. Enjoy. Thanks.